Blessed to be part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Our great friend Dave Petzo joining us. And before we get started on the markets and one of the slower weeks of the year, obviously, as someone who loves the city of Boise, someone who is a champion of the city of Boise, who pays local and business tax to the city of Boise, your thoughts on this horrible incident that happened over the weekend. 9 people stabbed. You've got this 30-year-old from Los Angeles or from California who is accused of this. You've been in this town for quite some time. Your thoughts initially?
Oh, Kevin, obviously it's horribly tragic. We all think we live in this amazing place where nothing bad like this happens. I mean, nothing off the charts like this happens. And Boise's grown, and it still is a wonderful community, a very safe community to live in. But human beings, when we all live together, these things happen. And it is tragic, and all in one weekend. My goodness gracious, it's kind of a pile on. But I'm sure we're going to rally around this, and we'll be fine. It is a horrible thing to think this could happen in Boise. It's something we read about in Chicago, not here.
Well, and then you have the murdered police officers in good condition after he was shot trying to pull somebody over. And as I said before, welcome to Los Angeles.
Yeah, Kevin. Some of that is going to happen. There's no question, and there seems to be more. I don't want to say violence because the world is a safer place than it's ever been. It just seems to be more crazy. I don't follow the rules type behavior, and for a guy that doesn't always follow the rules, saying that, I guess what I mean is that things that are very serious and. Police officers, respect is, I guess, what I'm really trying to drive at. You get pulled over, you take your medicine and you move on, and it's just not something where people need to feel like they're picked on. People just seem to get their back up, and there's a lot of tension out there, and I psychologists can't figure out what it is. I certainly can't.
Well, and we've seen this attack, and it started with the Obama administration on police officers, and for years we have proudly been out there, and some people have criticized us for backing law enforcement, backing their families, backing the blue, backing the badge. And it's amazing to me, all the people that protest the police, they're not the ones that are called when 9 people are stabbed. They're not the ones that go into the nightclub to take down the shooter. They're not the ones to stop the perpetrators, yet they can be highly critical.
Yeah, and imagine what the world is like without police. I get very frustrated with a lot of these movements that really paint all people in all police officers as one particular thing, when we all know human beings. There's going to be bad apples in every batch of people, no matter how many different ways you try to do it. And when we may overplay when there's bad behavior by the police, it doesn't help us at all to have a pro-police department. And I think that's critical, Kevin, by the way. I think the thing that you've done over the years here is you always have been very pro law enforcement, and the idea that this community is pro-law enforcement is one of the reasons it is a safe place to live.
Well, and I think that is like in Jeopardy, when you take a look at Denver, and you've compared the growth here to one day being like Denver, Colorado. Denver's a pretty dangerous place. I can remember years ago, remember the show Cops?
Yes. Yeah.
Where they would cops in Denver and Aurora and all those places. It's pretty dangerous.
It's good when Cops doesn't come to your town because there's just not enough action there.
Right.
But you're right. There is little places, I think it's called Aurora Avenue, stuff like that, where it's just it's really rough in Denver. So you're right. As we grow, these problems are going to multiply, no question about it.
Well, and the impact it has, this was the lead story on Good Morning America on Sunday. You have Fox News leading with it, other people leading with it, the perception of the Treasure Valley. And, you have the national media trying to frame this. We had Tanya J. Powers on earlier. Well, why did this happen? Sometimes you have bad people with bad behavior who are criminals doing bad things. Mm-hmm. There's nothing else. They're just bad people.
That's right.
And it's like that Toby Keith song, who's going to stop these folks when the wolf's at the door? Well, it's the police.
That's exactly right. And so it is a circumstance where it's unfortunate, and it did happen in Boise. And as far as the national narrative for Boise. Well, all we get is good press. That's why the whole world's moving here. That's why we're the fastest growing city in the country. I think people are aware that things like this happen, and there are crazy people, and there are angry people, and they are everywhere. And just because it happens in your town doesn't mean that the town is somehow dangerous.
Dave Petzo joining us from the Petzo Center, Petzo Financial. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So we have energy costs going up still because of the gas and such. Your thoughts on the outlook for energy throughout the month of July?
Higher still, Kevin. There's no reason to think that we're going to have a glut of. Well, we do have a glut of oil, but the reality is it's got to get distilled down into gasoline and so on. And further, there's enough turmoil in the world to keep energy prices a little bit higher than they've been. We're up above $70 a barrel. There's no way that these energy prices are coming down. We're in the midst of the summer driving season. There is no way that gas prices are coming down right now.
Well, what do you say to people, though, that they make their living, delivery drivers, Pat from Middleton, landscapers, and those type of things?
Well, it's part of the cost, and the good news is it's not hasn't escalated in the last 5 years above where it was. And in fact, it has certainly come back up off the lows recently, which was enjoyable. But the reality is gas is, with the fuel-efficient vehicles, things are not terrible as far as the overall economy. Individuals, absolutely, Kevin. People like Pat, you're talking about landscaping, running all those engines all the time. They burn a lot of fuel, and I get it. It's going to be on the margins. It's going to cost a little bit. The other one that we're going to see rising is going to be airline tickets. There's no doubt in my mind that they're going higher if we don't see a little bit of an ebb not too far out in energy prices.
Well, you look at airline prices; they're always looking to stick it to us.
Well, they would love to charge more for their seats. There's no doubt about that. But we do, relatively speaking, Kevin, we travel super cheap in this country, and we are very, very fortunate to be able to fly these buses in the sky for relatively little.
I don't know where you're flying, but certainly not where I'm flying.
Kevin, when I was a kid, I remember this because the first time I ever flew, I think our tickets were $600, $700, $800
Now that's
each.
with the propellers, right?
It was. It probably was. It quite probably was. But flew to go see my grandparents. It was incredibly expensive. And you think about that clear back in the early 1970s. Today, you fly coast to coast for a couple $100. We literally fly for less than we did 30, 40 years ago. And that is crazy. I'm not even adjusting for inflation. That is crazy.
Well, I don't know where you're flying coast to coast for $200.
I just did. New York.
You flew to New York.
Flew to New York. It was $220.
How many stops?
One.
Really?
Seattle, and then all the way in.
Really? I need to talk to your travel agent. Dave Petzo joining us here. What about Toys R Us? Babies R Us. Now done. Game over.
It's a different world, retailing. It just is totally different. But it isn't that all of them are dying. We're still going to have retailers, or at least for the next little bit. But you've got to answer the call. I mean, being fussed about Sears going away is because they didn't operate well. Kmart, Sears, Montgomery Ward's before that, and on. The list goes on. It's a very difficult business, one I don't like to invest in very often, and that's the reason why. It's just you're just a heartbeat away from getting crushed.
All right, Dave Petzo. Anything else you want to share with us here? I'm pretty much out of my topics. What do you have this morning?
Kevin,
for the first time in a long time.
You are speechless. It really this tells you everything about what this week is,
yes,
isn't
exactly,
it?
Time of year.
It is completely dead.
I mean, I can go to the trade wars and such, but
no, actually, the markets are a little fussed about the trade wars right now. There's no doubt about it. Markets are indicating a down opening. And as you and I talked last week, this is a slow period of time, very slow in the summer, and the markets can move by the slightest little things. And so I don't think we will have a big sell-off, but we could. We absolutely could.
Well, here's the headline from USA Today. Stocks had a bumpy first half. What's next?
Yeah, they did have a bumpy, but it wasn't that bumpy. It's pretty normal. Our volatility is actually a little lower than normal. So, again, that's headlines, Kevin. Reality is never what headlines are. It isn't.
You know, you should run for office. You're just like spinning me here this morning. We go to Terry from State College, Pennsylvania. First quarter GDP was revised down to 2%. Thought first quarter was raging.
Two's okay, and the second quarter really took off. First quarter was okay considering what we were coming off of. So I think that we are doing just fine. It was raging. I think that's a very good quarter. And right now, it looks like
2% was a good quarter.
Yeah, it was good. It was what was expected for the quarter.
I thought it was supposed to be
great.
5% or 3%, the president said.
It would be nice, and we are averaging now 3 for the year. It looks like we'll see what the second quarter reads, but it's certainly all indicators are it's over 4% this quarter for an overall. And that's the thing about quarters. We have got to be careful to go quarter to quarter. You always want to try to roll 12 months at least going forward to see a real trend, and we're looking at really a good trend. 4 quarters
in a year, is that right?
4 quarters in a year.
Yes. All right.
Yes. So roll them forward, and we're looking pretty good. We'll see what the numbers are. But it looks like year to date we are over 3.
A very confident Dave Petzo from the Petzo Center.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, 580-543-65. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. All right, back in action. Dave Petzo, Kevin Miller here at KIDO Talk Radio. So the trade war is heating up. We've got the Canadians. We've got other people that are firing back. Harley Davidson saying they're going to move some of their operations, some of their manufacturing overseas. The president firing back. You have the company that created, that reinvented or not, that brought back that iconic brand, Indian Motorcycle. They're looking at manufacturing now in Poland. Is this part of a greater plan? Does the president know what he's doing, or what's going on with these countries now? These American countries deciding to build overseas because of the tariffs and such.
Yeah, we'll see how this all shakes out. The tariffs we have in place are so minimal at this point, it's not going to affect anything. But the rhetoric is high, and we certainly are seeing people that are going to be making some business decisions. But Harley Davidson was already planning to take some production overseas anyway. So these are long time in the planning, right? You don't just suddenly go, well, there's a trade war, and so a month later you're going, we got to put a plant somewhere else, and we're going to go do that. These are multi-year plans, and so Harley Davidson was moving there, used this as the cover to do it, and I think that's unfortunate because it does appear to be pushing back against the president's policies when I don't think Harley meant to make that statement.
Right, but you have, it seems, and you talk about this on Money Matters a lot, it seems like the press, instead of covering this, they're taking sides, almost like cheering against the president.
Well, they are at every turn, and so when they find somebody, then that's going to, instead of a job coming back to the United States, which we've had that happen, instead of jobs continuing to go overseas, which would have happened if they didn't change the tax laws, then we never cover those. We cover only when somebody is going the other direction, because that displays that the president's all wrong. It's all really, the economy is really actually quite bad, and it's really some smoke and mirrors thing. We're all about to die. That's what the liberal press would like to see, because then they can get their folks back in office. It's a weird thing when you think about that there's literally all these folks that are rooting against the United States. And it's not just the doom and gloomers like Terry that are just always beating on the economy, and there's always something wrong. There's always it's bad. It's these people are actively trying to get and wishing the United States to do badly.
You have
overall.
people that are against President Trump saying a recession would wipe out his popularity.
Right, exactly. They want one. They wish there was one. It's, they hear about good economic numbers, and they're, oh god, here we go again, or the fact that North Korea comes to the table. These things that are happening, or companies decide to relocate to the United States, that everybody does have a bigger paycheck. These are amazing achievements already, especially with the Congress that can't seem to work. So at the same time, I think the president's done a fine job, and especially with all this negativity.
Dave Petzo joining us here. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Recently you were in McCall, and
yep.
I'm wondering, because we're having all these folks in here are we ever going to do anything about our roads? And not to really bash the roads or ACHD. Our great friend Kent at ACHD. However, we're going to need to expand our roads and figure out perhaps a safer way, if there is one, to get to McCall, to get to other places. Just because our population is growing and could be doubling and tripling, you're going to have to need maybe a Marshall Plan for the roads here in Idaho.
We really do. It's not, for some weird reason, it wasn't, I don't think it's a weird reason, I think it's because it's the 4th of July. It wasn't all that bad coming back. But I got to tell you, it was, when you get to the congestion of banks and your highway is stopped, not because of an accident, just because there's so many cars, and people can't make a left turn. All those things that have come up. It is just the roads do need to be expanded. But Kevin, I can't imagine what it's going to be like when we are trying to run another. Let's take a small number, 2,000 cars on that road in a day. That'll take nothing as far as population growth to have that happen on a busy weekend. So you're right. We really do need a long-term plan for a north-south corridor. At least as far as McCall.
Right, so everybody can get to the lake back.
Lake and back, and yeah. It's but you know what? I got to hand it to.
I would go to McCall if they didn't have that scary road.
But you know what? I mean, statistically, that just does not seem very scary to me when you think of the thousands of cars that are on that road, the bad weather conditions we run into in the winter up there. There just are very few deaths on that road, and I think that to me is a testament to two things: technology and the cars, as well as people. I got to give it to people too. They are paying attention on that busy road.
Well, they don't have a choice because there's no guardrails.
There are guardrails all over. Where
Not
are you?
enough.
Not enough. Okay.
Like I said, let's get you to traffic and weather together at KIDO Talk Radio. And we continue on with Dave Petzo here, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. But like I said, when you're talking about the roads and infrastructure, and that's great that you have some deaths and not many, but there shouldn't be any. And what happens, God forbid, if there's some type of emergency situation people need to get through? I mean, again, we talk about roads and bridges, and they're not that exciting and they're not that sexy, but isn't that where the spending needs to go?
Well, it does, and I think that the governor's been trying for years to pull together a plan to really increase the amount of money that's being spent on the roads. And it's been very difficult because, generally speaking, people scream and yell about education, don't they? And that gets, 75% of the dollars? There's just not much left.
A little over 50%. However, the governor did sign a new gas tax.
Yep.
That was supposed to fix the roads and bridges.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen the roads or bridges being fixed to justify the spending in the new gas tax, and at the behest of getting you in trouble with your friends on Bannock Street, it is you see this in other places where the fuel money goes to the general fund.
Right.
So, Dave Petzo, a fan of big government, a fan of government is right, wouldn't it be smart to come up with a plan now to figure out what to do while we have this big surplus?
Yes, it would. And that's exactly the time to be working on things, is when you're coming from a position of strength. There's two things to look at. As a fan of little government, I think that one of the disadvantages, though, is when we come at projects like this when times are good and we run a surplus, is that we don't think in terms of economies. We think in terms of it's never going to get worse. Everything's hunky-dory. We just got to go ahead and spend money. We do have to spend money on the roads. We have got to spend money. They are, Kevin. There's no question. There's a lot of road projects going on. We all complain all summer long. We always have. But at the same time, these are big and expensive projects, and we're talking about how are we going to deal with all the north-south traffic, and even in Boise, let alone running expanding the highway all the way up. It's going to be a tough group of problems. There's no doubt. But that north-south, I agree with you completely, Kevin. It's a very difficult solution because that's expensive road.
Well, even around here.
And around here, I know. You think about just all the intersections that need to be redone. They're all problems, right? And look at the fiasco that's going on State Street and Veterans Parkway, right? It's a mess for months.
Well, State Street's just a mess.
It is I know, but what I'm trying to say is how much of a mess it creates in one intersection, let alone probably the 20 others that we really need some work on.
Or around St. Luke's downtown with that crazy roundabout that, to me, has just added to the congestion.
Right, it does seem to be. Yeah. These are multi-year problems. We are very, very fortunate that years ago, the planning for the corridor, if you will, the east-west corridor here on the interstate, was way overbuilt compared to our population. Instead of continuing to try to add lanes slowly, but we've managed to fill those up now. So we are fortunate that east-west isn't bad around here, but north-south is still really tough.
Dave Petzo, what to look out for?
Well, watch out for all the trade talk and the fact that there's just no volume. There's no trading. So I think that the volatility this week could be a little bit higher than we think. But again, just like Wall Street, just go home and leave it alone. There's just not a lot going on right now. And with the 4th of July in the middle of the week, and we're right before earnings season, so go enjoy the holiday. Come on back. The corporations will tell you how they're just kicking rear and taking names, and they are. And I'll give you one quick data point if I have a second. $1 trillion has been returned to shareholders in the trailing 12 months. $1 trillion through dividends and stock buybacks. A new record, of course. That's what we want to keep focused on. Corporations in this country are killing it.
Dave Petzo, Positive Petzo, the Petzo Center, Petzo Financial. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're listening to Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
We saw a killer and we didn't want to get stabbed.
12-year-old Isram Habate and 11-year-old Fatih Muhammad were playing outside Saturday night when the mass stabbing began.
We saw him saying like bad words and
killing and stabbing our friends.
Stabbing a kid, and then grown up, and really hard and a lot of times.
The children were scared, but Isram knew they needed to get to safety.
We saw a killer and we didn't want to get stabbed. I brought him, my 2 sisters, and 1 more kid in the closet.
Locking the door behind them.
We were on the phone with the police.
It was crying.
We were on the phone with the police, and they told we were waiting until they told us they caught him, and then he went outside.
The stabbing sent 9 people to the hospital. 6 of the victims are children. The unsettling attack leaving people in shock. Dozens and dozens of people stopped by the scene, some hoping to reunite with people they know, like Lila Cabrera. She's a teacher who works with adult refugees. Many of her students live at the apartment complex.
A little better. I don't feel good, but I feel a little better that I know that people are okay. And this is the thing. These guys are survivors. That's why I teach them. That's why they give me the energy that I have when I teach them, and why I'm here.
Others didn't know the victims, but they wanted to show support. Many brought flowers and wrote messages, creating a memorial.
We're always talking about community and how much it matters, and how you can either be a bystander or an upstander. And we really spend a lot of time talking about, like, you have to get involved. You can't just wait.
Natalie Shaver, Idaho's News.
There we have it from our friends at Channel 7. Kevin Miller in the morning here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO.
Some of the victims will be forever scarred by the medical injuries that they received. They received life-changing injuries. This was an attack against those who are most vulnerable, our children. It's untenable, unconscionable, and is pure evil in my mind.
Our friend Chief Bones describing what happened at the press conference. We have a 30-year-old black man from Los Angeles, California, who will be arraigned today with a history of violence, taking it out on children, 6 children, 3 adults in the refugee community. How safe is the Treasure Valley? How safe are we? And, of course, we are the most generous, the most welcoming community, but that does lead to people coming in, the wolves, the people that prey on folks, and we are dealing with that this morning. Your calls are always welcome. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Tom Munz, TomMunz.com, Munz Tom Twitter. Good morning, sir.
Hey, man, if I'm going to go out on the limb on this, which I hope to do, it's very critical that I'm not misunderstood because this is the most contentious issue. I wanted to begin with a quote. I believe it was Benjamin Franklin that said, "No nation has ever withstood the nations of the dangers of multiculturalism." And I would venture to say that if this black man appears to be a refugee, they're going to end up hiding it anyway, like they did with Twin Falls and around the globe. The goal here is not to protect refugees, as it is using refugees as political pawns to further multiculturalism, to destroy an Anglo-Saxon nation. No more proof is needed than to read the UN documents. You see, Kevin, liberalism doesn't breed tolerance. It breeds corruption, hypocrisy, violence, fiscal irresponsibility, enslavement, and complete undermining of law and the freedom principles. I would suggest to the community that if the people really love their communities and they love their children, they would never allow people here that breed anti-American sentiments, and it's our fault for not demanding accurate anything in school that exacerbates the problem. The refugee issue is eerily similar around the country, trying to blame Americans for being hateful when clearly the opposite is true. We've got to ask, Kevin, who hates and who do they hate? I hate the breeding of ignorance, violence, and liberal hypocrisy. What do they hate? They hate those that enjoy peace, prosperity, freedom, and law. And on the flip side, there are those that ironically hate the refugees coming here, but support a military-industrial complex that actually, one could argue, creates the refugee problem that we have. So our nation, as I've told you before, Kevin, is a nation of hypocrisy. We say we love our kids, and I've always told you we don't. We love our country. No, we don't. If we did, we would learn its principles. If we loved our children, we would understand what kind of principles are going to perpetuate freedom for them so they could have some semblance of a freedom that we have. Why is it so far difficult, and why are people like us labeled terrorists when we are clearly the ones that are trying to perpetuate the principles that people say that they really love? And that's my thought this morning, man.
Tom Munns didn't want you misunderstood, so there you have it. 2.5 minutes of Tom Munns.
I think I said it pretty clearly. I hope I don't have to come on for a clarification, but I think I've pretty well got it. And thanks for allowing me to get it all in, man.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So here we have this 30-year-old man. He's not a refugee. He's from Los Angeles. Extensive record involving violent crimes, weapons, and drugs in other states. So he was thrown out of the apartment complex on Wiley Street, over off State Street. You can see the big satellite trucks there today. And he was thrown out. We don't know why. So he came back to exact revenge. And revenge he did exact. As Chief Bones said, pure evil, stabbing 9 people, 6 of them were children. This is not a situation about the refugees. Politically, you might have some people trying to make it that way. It's not about hate crimes. It's about a person from Los Angeles, California, who had apparently some issues. And he was thrown out of this apartment complex and came back. Now, we're going to have a vigil tonight at City Hall at 6 o'clock, and people will be there. This is nothing that has anything to do, again, with these folks from other countries. Now, people will make a big deal of it, but you take a look at the city of Boise, as we said earlier with Tanya J. Powers. You had World Refugee Day, and you had thousands of people show up. You have people giving up their homes, their tax dollars, to help these political refugees. What this story really is about is something that I have warned about here in the Treasure Valley for years. It can't be all sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. And we talked about it with our friend Dave Petzo. The more people you bring in, the more bad things happen. Remember the big story 2 or 3 months ago where somebody put a mean note on the car of a soccer coach in Eagle, Idaho, and how the community rallied around and said this stuff doesn't happen here? Yeah, that's the old Treasure Valley. The new Treasure Valley is you've got 9 people stabbed in Boise. You've got a Meridian police officer, thank goodness, thank the Lord, who was shot but is in recovery. Remember Officer Kevin Holtree and the K-9 officer that died protecting his life. This is why these people, these misguided protesters that attack our police officers, and they will never do it because they are the most fair, honorable, just people that I know of, will never show any favoritism. This is why these people that want to take down ICE and that want to destroy our institutions are misguided. You know, there was a big protest Saturday. This is not America, tearing apart families. Yeah, it is America. America is, in the past has always looked out for Americans, not people from other countries coming into the country illegally. For if you tear down ICE, if you attack the police, who is going to protect you from the people that want to victimize you and want to victimize children? There is going to be a lot of hand-wringing. There's going to be a lot of sadness. But vigils and press conferences do not keep the bad people away. It is the police that keep the bad people away. Here is our friend Joe Paris from earlier this morning from Channel 7 giving us a complete update as we know it here at KIDO Talk Radio.
Still a really eerie scene here this morning off of State Street in Boise. The community, the refugee community, still recovering after that brutal attack on Saturday night. If you did miss it this weekend, 9 people stabbed at the Wiley Street Station Apartments about 9 o'clock on Saturday. We learned yesterday during a news conference with Boise Police Chief Bill Bones that a man who had been reportedly staying here for a short time was kicked out on Friday. He came back on Saturday to exact revenge. That's how the chief put it on Sunday. We have learned that of the 9 people that were stabbed here on Saturday, a lot of them children, including a 3-year-old girl who was celebrating her birthday. At this time, it doesn't appear to be that the suspect actually knew there was a birthday party going on here on Saturday night, but when he did wander into the complex, he found children celebrating a birthday party. Those victims, some of them in serious condition still this morning. One victim was actually flown to Salt Lake City. Very, very tragic, tough events to deal with here on Saturday night. But yesterday, I was here throughout the day, still here this morning, and we saw the community, dozens and dozens of members of our community out here bringing flowers, words of encouragement, posters, toys. And the tragedy on Saturday night, it's tough to deal with for anyone, but to see the community come out in such numbers yesterday, and they're also expected to be here today to support the community here at the Wiley Street Station Apartments, it does show that anytime there is evil in this community, the community does respond. We are expecting to learn a little bit more about the suspect later on today. He is scheduled to appear in Ada County Court at about 1 o'clock this afternoon. He is charged with a total of 15 felonies, 9 counts of aggravated battery, 6 counts of injury to a child. Police say at this point, although refugees were involved in the attack, it does not believe that this was a hate crime. They were not really the idea of the attack, attacking refugees. They just happened to be here at the complex. And again, the suspect, Timmy Earl Kinner, a 30-year-old from Los Angeles. We're told by Boise police that he doesn't have a criminal record here in the state of Idaho, but they did learn through some investigation that he does have an extensive criminal record that does span across multiple states. Chief of Police telling us yesterday, Bill Bones, that some of the things he has done in the past could be qualified as very violent crimes. Kevin, we are going to learn a little bit more here this afternoon about the suspect, but the community here this morning still recovering after a brutal attack on Saturday night.
Joe Paris, Channel 7 with the very latest. Let's go to Liberty Linda. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Yes, good morning, Kevin. I didn't call in earlier because I just wanted to hear from you professionals about this horrible, unbelievable, pure evil attack against our innocent. You know, you, Tanya J. Powers, Steve Yates. Anyway, I just wanted to hear that reporting, but, you know, it's totally unbelievable what's going on in our country. I don't remember hearing these type of things when I was young and growing up. I was watching a show, about an hour-long show about Mexico and how it's changed. And I'm wondering why all these refugees are going through Mexico and trying to come into the United States when it looks like Mexico is thriving and doing well there. Why wouldn't they want to stay there?
Well, not only that, it's horrible with the drug cartels and everything else, but coming back to this situation, it's not a hate crime. It's a guy from California who had issues, who was a violent person, who took it out on these innocent folks. let's hope that the people don't try to make it that Idaho doesn't like refugees.
Right. They're turning it all around. You know, we can see what actually it is. And it is against innocence. Our babies are the most important things to us. You know, we should care about every little thing about our child and make sure that they get everything they need, their love. And, you know, it's unbelievable. We hear this going on, you know, what's going on in Washington also. It's unbelievable. Why can't we just get truth from our CIA and our FBI? Why? I feel like we should just do away with both of them. Do we need them?
Well, the CIA and FBI, yes, I think that we do. I think that we need law enforcement now more than ever, and we have to, take the blinders off that you have bad people that will do bad things.
Right. Not if they're not going to report to us, not if they're holding things back from we the people. They are there for us to protect our country. And so we'd like to hear truth coming out of that.
Liberty Linda, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. All right. Have a great day.
Thank you. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
This is not who we are. This person is not from here. In fact, the response that I've heard all around town from I had a chance to go to the apartment complex today, spent some time with some of the folks that lived there, some that saw the incident. But people were dropping flowers off and popsicles, and everybody had already started to come out and really embrace these families and these folks, and that's who we are.
There you have it, Mayor Beater from the press conference yesterday, taking your calls. Our great friend Lars Larson will join us coming up. Kevin Miller in the morning, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Let's go to Keith on the Boise bench, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Kevin. Yeah, I'm calling something no one has brought up yet. Now, I've lived on the Boise bench since 1994. Boy, have I seen some changes that are, to me, disturbing. To other people, maybe they're okay with it. But to me, it's like living in a foreign country now. And, most of the people that are here are apparently awesome people. But again, boy, have things changed now. What I would like to have addressed is who invited this Timmy guy to live here in the first place. So if the big push is for us to be a welcoming city, who welcomed him here? No one's talking about that. Who did this? To me, when you see a person...
I'll tell you, I didn't welcome Timmy from here to here.
Yeah, so, and I'll tell you, my world, sir, what I get to live with is, again, I've had issues, again, living on the Boise bench. I live just off Orchard Street, and, years ago, my dog woke me up in the middle of the night, and I looked out my window, and I saw a guy trying to steal my vehicle. So I went out there, and, I convinced him just to leave and never come back, and he did. No one got hurt, and he never came back. But now, when I get people like Timmy knocking on my door, there's no talking to these kind of people. And, they mean business. And,
well, Keith, you bring up a good point, because it's been all rainbows and unicorns, and we have predators in our city now. And not just in Boise, but you talk to the folks in Canyon County with the gangs and such. They're here. They're predators, and they intend to prey on us.
Yeah, so it is disturbing, and I've heard you and some of your awesome people that follow your show saying Ada County is just gone, or Boise is just gone, and to me it is. And so, for the first time in my life after living here since, I've been here about 30 years, I'm ready to bug out, and I'm just looking for a place to go. And again, sirens constantly. Traffic is horrendous. You can't make left turns around my neighborhood anymore. You make right turns, or you don't turn at all. And tension is up. I've got neighbors that moved here from Aurora, Colorado, and they said Aurora just went downhill so fast you couldn't believe it. And so I asked the guy, what do you think about Boise right now? And he's like, the same thing is happening here. I'm like, good Lord. So, what do we do? And it is frustrating. I know people want to love others and help, but why are they bringing all these, Timmys into Boise? Why are they doing this?
Right. No more Timmys. Thank you, Keith. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. And Kevin Miller in the morning will have the latest on the stabbings and why it's important to support the police officers here in the Treasure Valley. They're the ones that keep us safe. Our thoughts and prayers go out not only to the folks in Boise, but to the folks in Meridian dealing with that officer who was shot in the line of duty, just doing his job in keeping us safe. It's our duty, our privilege to support law enforcement and their families. Let's join in and make the Treasure Valley the best it can be. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.